All right, Mark, welcome to the Campfire sessions, my friend.
Mike, thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I love connecting with other podcasters and kind of getting a feel for their experience and learning how they develop their voice. Because I feel like that as we go through life, we hit points in our life where we lose that ability to speak for ourselves and be authentic. It just becomes uncomfortable. So, how do we get from being uncomfortably muted to developing a voice that helps other people?
Well, I think the key is not to copy other people and just let your voice develop naturally. I'm 59 years young, and my voice today is different than when I was 49, 39, 29, certainly when I was 19. And so in the early days, I was trying to force who I wanted to be. And I would look at all these influencers. I grew up in an era without social media, without streaming, and I had to go, look at regular TV or see people out in public. But then I realized that people are going to be attracted to me because I'm me, not because I'm a mini Gary Vaynerchuk or a mini Tony Robbins. They want me. And so I don't overthink it. I think a lot of people are overthinking. What's my voice? What's my why? What's my purpose? Just live life and it'll come to you in its perfect time.
Just be mindful and be present, right? You know,
And yes, being present is important because this day and age, we're on our phones all the time. How many times we've gone to a Christmas pageant at our church and everyone's worried about taking the perfect video of their kids and they're not even enjoying the moment. And the kid is looking out at mom and dad and all they can see is your phone. So here's an idea. Why not just be present in the moment, whether you're at church, you're at a picnic, you're on a podcast, just be fully present because I think people are missing out on so much. I mean, I love the technology because you and I get to do this conversation on your podcast, but there's can't all be online. We have to have things offline where we're actually talking to people like at a campfire or a park or in a parking lot, eyeball to eyeball. I mean, if I was right there with you, we would not be texting each other. We'd be having a conversation.
most definitely. And, that's the hard part because we get caught up in our world today with social media. We see all the bright and shiny moments. We want to be a part of that. We want people to gawk at what we're doing and acknowledge that. But I feel like, especially through my journey in developing my voice nowadays, it took a lot of going inward and putting all that stuff to the side. That's scary for a lot of people today.
Mm. I think it's scary because we can hide behind our screens. We could just be some kind of a caricature of who we are. It could just be an emoji that's our profile picture. But when you're in real life with somebody, you really it's tough to put a mask on when you're in front of somebody. When you're on behind your screen, whether it's a computer screen or your phone screen, we tend to say things we wouldn't say in front of people. And I just think in the great technology we have, there's something to be said about stepping back and like maybe, I don't know, take a Sabbath of technology. And if that scares you, maybe you start with a couple hours and then go to a half a day, then go to a whole day, then go to a whole weekend. I promise you, if you don't use your technology for a day, you will not die. Okay. You will survive because you're talking to someone who who lived without technology. I mean, I remember there's three TV stations, no, four TV stations, ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. And if the president was on, you were out of luck because no VCRs, no DVRs, no cable, no satellite. So, I mean, you learn to live with it. So you don't need to be on your technology every waking moment.
It's funny because a lot of people actually find out about me and come to me based off of social media and the technology. But then when they connect with me and we get on a trail and there's no signal, they're almost fearful. You're laughing as I'm going through this, and I am too on the inside because I remember growing up without all these things. And the reason that they get scared is because they're distractions. And those
Mhm.
distractions, when you remove them, you become accountable for where you're depositing your time and your effort.
Mm. That's you said something very profound there. There's this fear that if something happens in the world, I'm going to go to X and find out about it, get the video, get the pictures. Why? I mean, does my heart break when tragedies happen around the world? Of course, but I can't do anything about 99% of them. So why am I going to allow myself to get caught up in this overwhelm, this anger, this sadness, which is going to kill my productivity? It's going to kill my mental and physical health. So I listen, I believe I have a saying, stay informed, not obsessed. So you should know about the major things happening in our world, but you shouldn't know everything about everything in the world. And I know some people always have the news on in the background. They have all the news apps on their phone, and their phone is constantly going off. I'm like, it's never good news. It's never like, hey, they found the cure for Alzheimer's or they found the cure for cancer. It's always something negative, and that is penetrating our subconscious mind, and then we wonder why we feel lethargic, sad, angry all the time.
We're getting tripped and triggered by all the things that are outside of our circle. That's where
Mhm.
the imbalance is happening. When we bring that view back into our circle and who we are, where we're actually making an effort and we can actually control things, it puts the agency back in your hand. It puts the responsibility in your hands.
Mhm. And I think in our world today, there's a lot of people participating in the blame game. I'm addicted to Facebook. It's Mark Zuckerberg's fault. Really? So Mark Zuckerberg came to your house with a loaded gun, put it to your head, and forced you to be on Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram. Really? No. Elon didn't come to your house and force you to be on X, formerly known as Twitter. I think that, especially what really annoys me, the people who are older, you got to act like an adult. Okay. Social media doesn't control me. Social media doesn't use me. I use social media. And so I will never just scroll mindlessly on any social media platform. I don't have time for that. I have no desire. I'd rather go outside here in Texas and read a book that's going to help me better serve my clients than I would scrolling endlessly on Instagram or TikTok or X. I mean, for me, it's better for my mental health.
It absolutely is. It gives you an opportunity to truly practice the art of connection
Mhm.
and connection with intention, which then equals progression within your life. And it brings a sense of safety to the idea that I'm responsible for the footsteps that I put down.
Mhm. Yeah. I have heard something known as forest bathing, learned about it about 4 or 5 months ago. And if your listeners are not familiar with this is when you go to a heavily wooded area without being on your technology. So if you wear an Apple Watch or a Garmin, it's okay to wear that so you can track your steps and your walk and stuff like that. But put your phone on do not disturb and just enjoy being in the woods. There is a lot of scientific evidence that says when we are in nature that it does something to our bodies, because you think way back in the day they didn't have technology. There wasn't McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chickens and all this other stuff. I tell people all the time, Jesus never took an Uber. And you look nowadays, oh, I got to go a block. Okay, I better call an Uber. It's a block. It's like when you can't walk a block. I mean, you should be able to walk 7, 8 blocks now. But people, they pull up that Uber app and it could be just to the corner. I'm like, are you serious? How lazy are you? Or when I go shopping with my wife, which is rare because it's not productive use of my time, I don't like driving around looking for a close parking spot. I'll park all the way out at the end. There's always plenty of parking spots out there, by the way, and then walk into the building. And when it's funny, I remember, I think it was last year, I had to go to the store real quick. I parked all the way at the edge of the parking lot and I saw all these cars looking for a close parking spot. I'd gone in, picked up the one item, came out, they're still looking for a parking spot, and I'm already done back in my car. So I that stuff just makes me laugh.
That's getting back to the idea of there's safety within not only distractions, but the simple direction to get things done. We
Mhm.
want things the easiest way possible. I'm actually sitting out here, and as we're recording, There's a couple of squirrels that have been out in the yard working just from sun up this morning. You know, hunting down different nuts and burying them for winter, getting ready.
Mhm.
And when you go out into nature and you sit down, we got this really cool skill that we have, observation, which partners with this other really cool thing we can do, tell a story. And we can utilize the things we see in nature to not only educate ourselves, but build a story we can share with somebody else in the community to do the exact same thing, just like we're doing here now. You know, we're doing the heavy lifting, putting this conversation together as we bounce these stories off of each other, distraction free.
Mhm. I, as a productivity guy, distractions are a big deal. What I help my clients with. And one of the challenges I give anybody, and I encourage your listeners to do this well, get yourself a little note card and a pen. Don't overcomplicate this. And keep track of all the distractions you deal with in the course of a day. You probably won't make it more than an hour because you'll be so horrified because we don't stop and think about that dog barking 4 yards away is a distraction. The neighbors the next street over are having their roof replaced. There's a helicopter flying overhead. So you start writing these things down, and I've never had anybody go more than 30 minutes. They're so horrified because you may not recognize these distractions. Okay. Your body may be tuning them out, but your mind, your ears hears everything. And so people go, well, I couldn't focus today. Well, tell me what's going on. And like, well, I don't know. So let's do the next day. Once you write down all distractions, and then we found out it's the helicopters, the FedEx truck, it's the neighbor's, car alarm going off, and they didn't think they were hearing this, but their subconscious heard it, their ears heard it, and as a result, it wasn't fully focused because it's like, why? What's all that banging sound? And we're subconsciously not aware of it, but it's really affecting. So distractions are all around us. I mean, I'm in my room right now. In my one of my bedrooms is now my studio, and right on the other side of my MacBook is my blinds. The blinds are closed, but it's really sunny outside, and they're not blackout blinds. So I can see when the sun gets bright and when it goes behind a cloud. That's a distraction. Now I can overcompensate for that, but what people are not realizing, that in itself is a distraction.
It's doing a simple exercise like that, though, setting the intention to actually pay attention and bringing yourself mindfully into the moment, which, I remember back in the beginning of this journey, really took a lot of work and a lot of effort to get to do. And oftentimes it was kind of scary, like you were talking about, because you realize that there is so much that we're combating on a daily basis.
I think people, first of all, need to give themselves grace because if you do this exercise and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so many distractions and 80% of them are my fault. Well, if you start getting angry at yourself, now you're just making the problem worse. So I always tell people start with grace. Give yourself credit for recognizing these distractions. Now, you can't do anything about your neighbors having their the roof replaced, but maybe you cannot work on stuff that requires your full focus on that day. It usually takes like a day to replace a roof. So, like, okay, well, I'm going to work on something that doesn't take my full focus. So, instead of people getting angry, give themselves grace and then figure out how you can work around distractions. Maybe you have a leaky faucet in your bathroom and you can hear the drip, drip, drip. And you're like, well, I tried to fix it and I got to call a plumber. Well, what you can do to start with is get yourself a little small towel, put the towel on the drip, and now you don't hear it. So these are little things, these are little solutions we can do to counter the distractions. Now, again, some distractions you have no control over. If the police are up in the helicopter looking for a wanted fugitive or it's life flight, you can't do much about that. Can't do much about your neighbors getting delivery. But what about stuff in your house? Do you have the TV on in the background that you just keep for background sound? Is your dog outside barking with the other dogs? So there's certain things you can do. I don't want people just to get mad at themselves because that's only going to make the problem grow worse.
It's that sense of grace, I feel, is almost the beginning framework for any kind of real intention behind mastering your time management.
Hmm. It is because when people come to me, I'm known as Mr. Productivity. People come to me and they're like, "Oh, I just can't get this done." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's figure out what's going on." And what I find from people is because they don't extend themselves grace, they allow themselves to get angry, which causes more anxiety, and they get more anger and they get more anxiety, and it goes from a molehill to a mountain. And I'm like, okay, wait, let's stop a minute, okay? Because the train you're on is coming to a cliff and the bridge is out. So we need to do is we need to pause. And people don't understand that sometimes pausing is the ultimate productivity hack. Stop trying to push a rope. Stop. Maybe you need to go for a walk. Maybe you need to go outside and if you're a guy, take off your shirt, stand there with your bare feet in the ground, let the sun, hit your body or whatever. And women can do this as well. Just if you're in a public place, don't take your shirt off. People frowned upon that. But give yourself a break. We are so busy of pushing the envelope that we think if we stop and take a break, that we're doing something wrong. I mean, when I finish the interview with you, I will go outside because I don't want to be behind electronics for too long. So I'm behind electronics. It ends. I go outside, and it's usually I have a physical book with me, and I'm sitting there with my bare feet on the ground, hanging out with my dogs. So I don't. So many people are behind their computer screens like all day, and then they wonder why they have these headaches and these eye aches, and they feel so frustrated because they never got up and got away from the technology, or they get up from one piece of technology and exchange it for another piece of technology. So we're going from a big screen to a small screen, or maybe a big screen in terms of a laptop to a bigger screen in their living room. Your body needs a break from all this stimulation.
It's acknowledging that has got to be that first hurdle, that first
Mhm.
challenge that you encounter a lot, because let's face it, we are living in a fast paced, go,
Mhm.
go, go society that totally loses sight of the simplicity of the generations that came before us. We look at that world now almost as if that had to have been really hard and really challenging in order to live that simple of a life. It's so foreign to us. How do
Mhm.
we start developing that kind of vocabulary that makes it okay?
Well, it starts with self-talk because I don't know about you, but I hear a lot of people trash talking themselves. So let's not even talk about how we talk to other people. Let's talk about how we talk to ourselves. When you make a mistake, you say, I'm a moron. I'm an idiot. I should have figured this out. Well, what do you think is going to happen if you keep talking to yourself that way? You think you're going to be, wow, I'm full of joy. I'm inspired today. I wish people would just stop trash talking themselves. I mean, you should talk more kindly to yourself than any other person. In my professional opinion, you should never trash talk yourself. You're going to make mistakes. You're not AI. You're not a robot. You're a human being. So if you're telling yourself negative stuff, well, you right away are taking a hit to your productivity and your mental well being, and then you're not going to treat other people well. And so, what I want people to think about is things are going to happen to you. You can't control that. But what you can control is how you react to it. So, I want people to focus on positivity, joy, kindness. Like I said earlier, I'm a productivity coach. And one of the things that really confuses people, the only sport I watch, in my opinion, the greatest sport in the world is European football. We call it soccer here in the United States. When my team normally plays on Saturdays and Sundays, but when they play during the week, I will watch the games live and people go, wait a minute, that's not being very productive. Ah, you're wrong. Because watching this brings me joy. I don't watch every football game because there's football games on every day around the world. I don't watch every football game. But when my team's on, I'm watching football because it brings me joy. People who are happy, joyful, kind, positive, they are more productive people than people who are uptight, frustrated, and overwhelmed. So I would encourage people to find something that brings you joy. Maybe it's taking your dog for a walk. Maybe it's going out in the back porch with a cup of coffee and just sitting there. Maybe it's meditation, but find that thing that makes you joyful, because when you do, you're going to be more productive.
I've noticed that a lot in my work. People come to me, they want to go out on a hike and they're trying to wash off that stress and that aggravation of the get kind of concrete world. And it takes them some time to get there. They get
Mhm.
frustrated with themselves. And we got to focus in and zero on that self-talk, because a lot of the time I hear somebody say, this is stupid. Why can't I just let go of all that stress? It's what I'm out here for. And then, we get to a staircase that's got a good 100, 200 steps in it that we got to ascend. And they're still in that negative mindset, that negative self talk. So that staircase went from being, I'm just tired and it's going to be difficult, to now feeling impossible, because not only am I physically tired, but I'm also beating myself down mentally and emotionally about it. So for me, the way to combat that is, as we're going through the trail, pointing out different little sights and sounds along the way and allowing them opportunities to just go back to the tree bathing idea. Let those feelings begin to wash over you.
I think 2 points on that. We don't always have to talk. We live in a society where if no one's talking, people get uncomfortable. So maybe you don't have to talk. Maybe you just go on the hike. Maybe you just go on a walk and just enjoy it instead of overthinking it. The other thing is, sometimes we don't have to listen to something. So I'm a daily runner. So first light, I'm out running 1, 2, 3 miles every day. And there's a phrase in the running world called running naked. Doesn't mean without clothes, it means without headphones. So a couple times a week at minimum, I like to go out. I'm not listening to an audiobook. I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm not listening to music. I don't even bring my headphones with me. I'm just out listening to the birds, listening to the traffic, listening to the wind going through the trees. And I feel more relaxed when I get back from one of those runs because I'm fully present. I'm fully immersed into my run. And when people walk by, I always say good morning to people, but I can't always hear them because I've had my headphones on. But when I'm not wearing my headphones, I can actually hear them reply. And so I'm not saying all the time, but if every time you go for a run or a bike ride or a walk, you always have your headphones on, I encourage you every other time, every third or fourth time, leave your headphones at home. Maybe leave your phone at home. I have an Apple Watch to track my exercise, so I don't need to have my phone with me, and just be present. I think we as a society, that's going to help our health greatly, by the way. If we would just slow down more, we're going to feel so much better mentally and physically.
And I think that's where the overall climate is starting to slowly transition to, is this act of actually physically slowing down. I've noticed a lot in the conversations that I've had lately, especially about the overall theme of really spider medicine based within the web, and looking at it as a reminder of the art of connection that is so much as a fundamental piece of who we are as humans. Part of the human experience is that connection. And the more that we start to foster that, I think overall, the more our mental health will start to improve. Our outlook on life will start to improve. The need for distractions will begin to lessen. Then ultimately, we're starting to begin to focus more on applying ourselves to how we're managing our time.
Hmm. One of the ways I slow down is I'm a daily journaler. So journaler, easier said than done. And I print my journals, and people will say, why do you print your journal? Why don't you just write cursive? Don't you know how to write cursive? Of course I know how to write cursive. But when you print legibly, you slow down. And so that's why I intentionally print in my journal. Maybe someday I'll be as famous as Benjamin Franklin. My journals will be worth something. Probably not. But by printing and writing legibly, it really slows me down because I can write cursive really fast, but I can't print as fast. So that might be a small tip for your audience when they're writing something, print it out legibly and watch how that effect of you slowing down improves what you're writing about.
I like that little tip. Never actually thought about that one, but that is actually a very good tip. I can see that. And really to get back and emphasize the idea of journaling, that's where you get the opportunity to put all those distractions aside, start focusing on building goals and building a direction. And that, to me, in my eyes and my experience, that's where you start to really develop the discipline to manage the course of your day and manage your time effectively.
Mm. Do you journal?
I do. I've actually got about 4 or 5 journals that I do.
Okay, excellent. I used to go with the journals that had the prompts in there and you just fill out the answer the question. I buy blank journals and because I like the free form. So I'll journal whatever I'm going to journal about that day. Although in the morning, there's 6 things I always journal about every day. The first thing I do is I write my vision statement down. So it's ingrained in my brain. And then there's 5 prompts I learned from someone on X not too long ago. I answer these questions. I write these questions out every day, by the way. It's not pre printed. I write these questions out every day. First one is, what's one thing I'm grateful for? The second one is, what's one thing I'm excited about? Third question is, what's one virtue I want to exhibit? Question 4, what's one thing I need to do? And the most convicting one is the 5th one. What's one thing I'm avoiding? Boy, I'm telling you, when you write that thing, whatever that is that you are avoiding, you write that down 2, 3, 4 days in a row, it becomes highly convicting. And then if I feel like it during the day, I will write down if I have thoughts I want to share. Some days I have longer entries than other days. And at night, if there's anything I want to wrap up, I will. Sometimes I journal at night, sometimes I don't. I don't want it to feel forced. A lot of people, they get these journals that are all like fill in the blanks and it's got something for morning and midday and evening. And then they've had a stressful day and they don't feel like journaling. I'm like, well, then don't journal. I mean, if it's going to add to your stress, don't journal. So I think the blank journal for me works great because I don't have to worry about filling anything in there. And it just, because now I'm journaling and it's joyful instead of something I have to do.
See, I like that. And I do the same. I mean, like I said, I carry multiple journals with me. Each of them has a specific reason. I've got the little prompt you fill in. I've got my blank journals, and one's dedicated to personal life. The other I utilize for a lot of the podcast episodes that I do. And it's natural. That's the part that people really overlook, is the fact that wherever you're in setting your intention and you're investing time, it's got to be something natural that you enjoy, that's going to help you.
Mhm.
And it's okay to say no to things. It's also okay to skip over some things here and there if they're not feeling natural. When you take away the force of it, you're bringing out that authentic version of yourself.
Mhm.
And the most important part with journaling, it really, to me, is the fact that when it gets to the natural point, is it doesn't have to look like anybody else's work.
Right.
It can be just simply a word here and there, a sentence, might be 3 pages one day. Who cares? Just let it flow. Let it be you.
I think a lot of people are, they see other people online and they're like, well, my journal's got to be like this. Well, who said so? There's no, as far as I know, there's no journaling police in the world. And I think you need to make it your own. And I believe in journaling every day, but maybe you want to journal every other day. Find something that works for you. But I agree with you saying it can't be forced, because then it's going to be like, oh, I got to journal. I don't feel like journaling. Well, then how well do you think you're going to journal? You're just going to scribble something down there. So that's my thought. It just do it with joy, do it with a sense of gratitude. Don't worry about, I mean, I'm a collector of journaling prompts. It helps me get the journaling start, but some things I'm just going to journal. Sometimes I'll have a paragraph about just the highlight of today. That's all. I don't overthink it. I think too many people are wasting their time overthinking what they're doing, and they're missing the joy of life.
That's very rampant in our society, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And the cool thing about that is you can always counter that and change it before you hit that life altering sort of moment. It's just opening your heart and opening your eyes, becoming aware of it.
Hmm. I think, if we've said this numerous times in the show already, if I could leave this show and give one piece of parting advice, slow down. You only get one shot at this life. Slow down. I mean, instead of going faster, 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 go slower, slower, slower. I mean, my days go so fast. I mean, I wake up between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, and we're doing this interview. My time, it's like we started at 2 o'clock, my time. And it's like, where'd the day go? I mean, I was busy, and day just flies by. I wish I could slow the day down. It's like, I remember back in 2010, my wife and I won a trip to go to France, and a week. They paid for everything, airfare, the rent a car, the food, everything. And that week went by in a blink. And I kept telling my wife, I said, how do we slow this down? Because we were go, 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 go. Even on vacation, we go to vacation, we get there on say a Friday, and we're going to leave the following Friday. It's like we're doing something on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we leave. I think, well, how about taking some days off and just go out to the pool and just hang out and read a book? But people go, read a book on vacation at the pool. I didn't go on vacation to read a book. I'm like, no, you didn't go on vacation just to go to the Magic Kingdom or go to Epcot or go to Busch Gardens or wherever. You went there to give your body a break. And if you're constantly going, then you have to come home from vacation to rest, which it's kind of backwards, if you ask me.
It's very true. And that's one of the beautiful things about getting out and going camping
Hmm.
is you can only do as an activity for so long. You get back to the campground and it's going to get dark and it's going to get laid back. It kind of pushes you to start setting some intention to relax and recover. And that's something that really facilitates every aspect of life, regardless of what it is you do. Set the intention to bring it back to you.
Hmm. Where are you located right now?
I am located just outside of Detroit, Michigan.
Okay. All right. So, little bit different climate. I was born and raised in Rochester, New York, moved down to Houston in 1997, got tired of the blizzards, the snowstorms, the ice, the single digit temperatures. But I remember, down here we have, 11 months of summer and 1 month of winter. And I do miss the spring. We don't really have a spring down here. And I do miss the fall, but we don't really camp down here in Texas because it's like 1 million degrees during the summer. But when I used to live up in Rochester, we used to go camping on Memorial Day, and a bare minimum, Memorial Day, 4th of July weekend, and Labor Day as a bare minimum. And I remember sitting around the campfire, and it was just so relaxing. Now, of course, to magnify that, there was no cell phones, there was no streaming, there was no cable or satellite. So, and nobody camped back then with TVs in their trailer because you had to have rabbit ears. So I think if I started camping again now, if I lived up north, it'd be a little bit different because I would not bring a TV with me. I would go camping just for the sake of getting away from all this technology. I'll still have my cell phone with me, but it would be more important just to relax because that's the whole point of camping, not to do the same thing while you're camping as you do at home. What's the point of going camping then?
That's exactly it. So as we come to the end of this conversation, hit me with where people can get in touch with you, what you got going on, all that good stuff.
Well, I got one central website for everybody. So you can find my podcast, my blog, my email list, coaching, everything is at MrProductivity.com. Mr. is all spelled out, MISTER, MrProductivity.com.
Beautiful. It's been a blast to get to throw these ideas back and forth. Thank you very much for taking the time today.
Thanks, Mike.
Most definitely.
Well, how'd I do, sir?